Alright, we are recording for Chapter 9 of the Voyage Home, which... I'm good with the episode. The episode with the chapter. It's kind of funny, though, because very few notes. So it's almost like it were a chapter of action, but no, it's mainly conversation. It's just a lot of it is... The Kirk-Jillian back and forth kind of stuff is... It's done pretty well, so don't have anything special to note on it. It's mainly just that we do get more information here than we get in the movie. But a lot of it is very similar to what's in the movie. One thing, though, a little funny here. Jillian wants to take them to Italian, and Spock's like, I don't know. And she's like, alright, well, I can take you to hamburger. What's a hamburger? And explains things like it's got ground beef on there and all that. Beef. This is meat? Yes. Sounds pretty good, Spock, Kirk said. Spock looked green. Oh no, Jillian thought, a vegetarian. She'd never seen anyone actually turn green before. Maybe it was a trick of the light on his sallow complexion, but he sure looked green. I shall prefer not to accompany you, Spock said. And I'm just like... it's the green blood, so it's possible he is actually blushing a little bit. And there's also a mention of... he didn't understand that it wasn't... That a hamburger is cooked, so he's like, that was only Saavik that ate raw meat. And it's like, no, it's cooked. And Kirk's like, well, I mean, occasionally I do enjoy a little bit of steak tartare. But really, Spock, we shouldn't be talking about Saavik right now. I mean, it's a little amusing there. At least he is remembering a detail like that about her. So, have another highlight here. Because she is bothered by the concept. It's like, why do they want the two whales? How should I know? Maybe your boat sank? Like, why are they trying to find them in the middle of San Francisco? She jerked her head towards Spock. Maybe he wants to take Gracie and George away to pen them up like cattle and start a whale breeding program back in Japan or someplace. Then we get a little bit that, of Spock admitting, I'm not from Japan. I've never been to Japan. And she's like, but you're dressed like a samurai, aren't you? It's like, no, he's from Tibet. But it's like a whale breeding program, like a farm. I mean, that would ensure they survive. It wouldn't be very practical, though, because of the migration range that they have. Yeah, because when you think about it, the only way you could... Well, actually, I wonder if you could do that now. That actually is a kind of interesting idea. In theory, you could today have a drone that could follow a whale pod. Well, yeah, I mean, there are trackers on these. In theory, that would still be picked up even at great depth, but at great depth, you don't need to worry so much anyway. Yeah, if you could have an efficient enough drone that monitors such that if they are approached by an by basically a whaling ship that you could then report back. It's like, in theory, you could do that. You could monitor them sufficiently. It's just a question of power to the drone. Like, you could do that today, but anyway, it is one of those funny things that technically, if you want an animal to survive, a good way to do it is to make it viable to eat them. Because then it will be in a rancher or farmer, whatever you want to call them, it will be in their best interest to keep the animal alive. Because it will become the basis of their livelihood. I was like, cows are never going extinct so long as humans exist. Same thing with chickens. We enjoy eating them too much, we will make sure that they live as well. But it is still, as I said, for whales, impractical. One thing, though, because it gets brought up later that I'll mention now, the reference to all the large aquatic mammals. So Kirk also doesn't know what an orca is, a killer whale. It's like, why? I do wonder why they would think that that's the case, that all of them would be dead. Like, what is it about them specifically? But it's also one of those things where something like that only makes sense if the source of food goes away, because then smaller animals need less food, so they would be better able to survive. At least that's probably the theory for why mammals were able to take over from the dinosaurs after the meteor hit. Because the dinosaurs were so large and so much vegetation was destroyed, they couldn't survive anymore. They didn't have enough food. But the mammals at the time, they believe were like in these small mice things that would not need nearly as much food, and so would be able to endure until vegetation grew back, and then they could grow in size again. So yeah, I don't know why you'd necessarily think that that's what happened. So anyway, Spock is let out. Then we come back to Javi, the garbage man author, who decided to, I didn't mention before, he wants to find out what the hell's going on, so he got into his Mustang, and he's actually parked in the park, and he's like, I'm going to watch. Immediately fell asleep. And a cop has now come in and started banging on it. It's like, you can't sleep here, dude. You need to, I mean, I can give you a list of shelters nearby. You gotta hurry, though, because they're closing. He's like, no, I work for the city and all that. He's like, yeah, I'm just here on a stakeout here and try to find it. And the cop's like, all right. But then a spark of light against the darkness caught Javi's attention. Geez, did you see that? He bolted past the cop and sprinted a few steps into the meadow. He stopped. The light and the man-shaped figure both had vanished, so he nearly caught Spock leaving. Well, being beamed aboard the ship. He nearly caught that. But eventually the cop is like, let me see that ID again. You're a garbage man. You haven't actually done anything illegal. It's late. Just go home. You basically just, I can't arrest you for being stupid. I'd like to. Just go. Drop this. I am wondering, because you could have just let Javi sleep through completely and not be disturbed. I do wonder if Javi comes up later. Or if he's supposed to be, like, he is an accomplished author that they would recognize. And he just uses a pen name or something. It's just, we're just building up to that. I don't know, but because I feel like there's got to be something more here. He's getting more attention than a throwaway character should get. Like Harry, the dude who's following her and Chekhov, he was a throwaway character. So he had his impact, and they're still like, it's a little weird he was following us. But that's it. We're probably not going to see him again. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Javi is not being treated like that, so I'm a little unsure. Okay. Next highlight here is something that... Let me just read it through, then I'll explain. Because it doesn't make sense, the claim in here. Grace is a very young whale. This is her first calf. Whales probably learn about raising baby whales from other whales, like primates learn from primates. If she had her calf here, she won't know what to do. She won't know how to take care of it, but if we let her loose in Alaska, she'll have time to be with other whales. She'll have time to learn parenting. So this is part of the reason why, again, they are being released, is that it is in Gracie's and the calf's best interest. And by the way, later on, just to quickly mention this, Gracie is not very pregnant, like in the movie. Jillian does have the comment that they could wait until actually the end of the year, which might be better because then they could take them to warm waters. But they, because of where the migration season would be, that would have been fine. But they don't want the pregnancy news to leak out because then there'd be too much pressure, probably also stress on the animal because everyone would come to see him, but also too much pressure to then keep them there. And it's like, yeah, there's no way that would be healthy. But this claim that whales and primates tend to learn how to parent from observing others. So a couple things I do know, because humans we're primates. Because they've apparently actually done this experiment, which sounds kind of cool, but whatever. After giving birth, they've actually tried even just like putting the newborn on various places of the mother's body, and the newborn will find its way to the breast to start nursing immediately, because that they are hungry. So it's like, they know to do that. So there is instinctual knowledge for the child to know what to do. It's reasonable that the mother also still has some instinctual knowledge as well as what to do. And there's also, it's actually funny, look into research on baby talk. That's actually a real instinctual behavior for adult humans. To do the, whatever it is with kids. Because they've studied it. Because, like, why do we start doing this? Why do we not... I mean, if we want to teach a child language, shouldn't we be talking to it in the fully developed language? But we don't. It's actually a neurological thing. We are actually programmed to do that. So it's like this claim that, oh, no, we have to observe to learn parenting. It's like, no, actually, some of it is instinctual. And I also put in the notes that it sounds reductive, and it shouldn't be, but a fundamental purpose of all life is to produce more life, is to produce the next generation. If you have a species that the only way you can do that is by observing, like gaining the knowledge to do that is only by observing your predecessors, you are not well equipped to survive and deserve to be outcompeted. I mean, it is, yeah, there's a lot of instinctual knowledge in a lot of species for various things. And it's weird. I know in one of the previous videos I had mentioned seeing a video of a beaver that was adopted by a human family when incredibly young, so has never been exposed to beavers, but still has the instinct to make dams in their home out of the toys. It's like, that seems oddly specific. It's like, I want to build a dam. It's like, how do you even know what that... So it's like that, you'd think it's engineering that has to be observed. No, there is an instinct there. So this idea that it is that non-instinctual is just nonsense to me. And even without a, well, you've seen that, you've heard this piece of research, it still is a no. Fundamental biology is to produce, you have the instinct, the desire to produce the next generation. If you don't have all the equipment to do that, as a species, you kind of are going to be outcompeted by a species that does have that. Okay, I'm saying there's a lot of things that we adapt to specifically for, or are adapted for specifically to have another generation. I mean, it's like how a woman's pelvis is different to support birth. Not only that, but if it actually changes throughout a woman's life. It is possible for a woman to not have the most birthing of a pelvis, but the hormones produced during pregnancy will actually cause the bones to reshape so she can give birth. And actually, when a woman enters menopause, because again, the hormones change, it will actually go back to where it's like, yeah, you would not support being able to give birth. So it's like you adapt at the time it's needed, well, for the months leading up, but also the whole thing, and I know I mentioned this before, human brains at birth are severely underdeveloped compared to other primates when they are born, and other animals when they are born. Yeah, it's because to achieve that same level of development, the human brain would be too large, mother couldn't give birth. So it's actually, for the first however many months, I think it's 3 to 6, the infant, their brain goes through massive, rapid development to achieve that level. And then it's like at that point, okay, now you're really starting to see various things about the child starting to appear. So it is a amazing thing, and it is... Okay, I'm going to say something that I know some people may get pissy about. Fortunately, no one really watches these things. But it's also... I'm sorry, it is kind of true, but, it's like, I don't see it as an insult. I don't believe it should be considered an insult. I mean, it can be, depending on how somebody says it, but to call a woman and baby-making machine, because it's like, it's a magnificent machine. I was like, all the stuff that goes on there, like the whole, what I mentioned with the pelvis changing, I'm pretty sure I'd mentioned before, the neurological rewiring, so it's like a mother will be able to pick out her child's cry out of a bunch of kids crying. I mean, it's like, that's awesome. That's really magnificent. And there's other things as well that I'm aware of, and a whole lot of other stuff that I'm not aware of. It's like, it's awesome. It is magnificent. So, yeah, but it's just the idea that primates, but also just whales, are not that magnificent as well. It's like, what are you talking about? If that magnificence is necessary for the next generation, which is kind of reductive. Again, I don't mean it that way, but it's just, this is awesome. Why are you making it sound like, nah, it's completely dependent on knowledge that you have to learn otherwise? No, that there's just, it's really dumb. To me, it's really and truly dumb. Anyway, oh yeah, here's the, okay, your friend is right. Like he said, Gracie's pregnant. Maybe it would be better for her to wait at the institute until the end of the year. So this will think that's not that she's very pregnant. Then we get the whole, don't tell me they don't have money in the 23rd century. Well, we don't, he said. That's a lie, though. That is a lie. Because earlier in this story, when he was handing out the money, he's like, in all the time I've known Scotty, he's never had an iota of sense about money. So he has worked with money. You do have money then. And in the previous story, McCoy is trying to charter a ship and is going to pay for it. In Wrath of Khan, the Project Genesis was being funded by the Federation. Funds. Money. He's just lying. And I don't know why. It might be a way to get out of certain things, but it's also I have to go. Like, instead of we don't, it's like, I gotta go. And he could just still have some money on him and be like, here, I hope, is this enough? Because he doesn't understand. He doesn't have enough experience dealing with money that's not like, okay, that's it. All right, I just quick, pull it out. Like, he'd just be slower with it, but it's, yeah, they do have money. Stop pretending they don't. And hang on, have I gone through that as well? I don't remember. Because there's also it only makes sense that they would have money because, okay, technically, money is still bartering, but it's an abstract measure for bartering. Because it's like, I'm just trying to look around, what have I got? I mean, it's like, okay, 128 gig flash drive. Let's say that, this I wanted to trade for something else. I don't know, but the value of that fluctuates. In theory, the dollar is more standardized. But you could still barter in America today if you wanted to. Or anywhere, if you really wanted to. Well, both parties agree to, but anyway. It would make sense to still have money because the bartering, and you need to be able to prioritize. I value the thing you have more than I value the thing I have. Hopefully, it's the same for you, so we can trade. And it would make sense to do that because it leads to a prioritization of items and potentially also of needs. So, you've got a new colony, right? Because humans, why wouldn't they be forming new colonies? And it's like, okay, I need to make sure that we have everything we need. But there's also these things we want. Okay, well, I am willing to give up the most to get this material. So, okay, I need to get this. I'm willing to give up this much for it. You would have that prioritization. It would be desirable, would be necessary. So, yeah, because then I mean, true, Deep Space Nine, technically it's on the frontier, but there's stuff like that with Bajor and the restoration of it. Like, oh, I'm blanking on the name for the dude. But there's the whole, because the Cardassians left a lot of the soil poisoned, so they need reclamators to go through and detoxify. And this is after I'm blanking on all the names. But Kai Wynn is not only the religious head, but the political head at the moment. And she wants to take them away from a location that they had, Sakara. Okay, that's one of them. Wants to take them away from where they are currently, where they've been promised. And the Bajorans there have actually just hidden them because, like, no, you promised this to us. We want them. And it's not even like Kai Wynn is trying to negotiate with them. It's just say, I want it to go over here because that'll be better. And so it's like, well, no, maybe she did try to trade, but in any case, they're keeping it there, and it's not like they can just get additional reclamators, which, hey, Federation, no money, everything is free, we have access to all this stuff. Hey, Starfleet, would you mind just sending us some more? No, it's like they have to trade, but it still is that idea of prioritization there. But no, that's where we get Sakaar, where he's introduced because he's basically leading the people there, and ultimately that goes on to do all that stuff and beats Kai Wynn, who It would be interesting to find out. Maybe it's in some of the commentaries. I think there's commentaries on the discs. How much she was meant to be as instrumental a character as she proves to be in that series. Because I believe that initially she was meant more as a throwaway character, just as a antagonist specifically to Kira and Cisco. Just, yeah, we'll bring it up every now and then, but I don't remember the actress's name, but she does a good job. She legitimately does a good job in that role. Really makes you hate her, but it's also, you can see how she has political skills that is reasonable that she is in power. She's despicable, but she knows what she's doing politically. So yeah. Anyway, sorry, just that was quite an aside. But yeah, I mean, it's like they would have to have money. There's also the whole dealings with Quark. There is money. Okay, I mean, just because there are not unlimited resources. There cannot be. Even if you're like, well, what about replicators? They can make anything. It's like, yeah, from energy. So you need something that produces the energy. Even antimatter would have to be manufactured, and it would just be essentially a super battery, the ultimate high density battery. So you'd still need to collect it from somewhere. Which, to be fair, I could see it being that they actually do have like space stations near stars that just collect the energy, run the particle accelerator, make a whole bunch of antimatter. You come up and it's like a gas station. I could believe that. Antimatter refineries, essentially. But it's never really been talked about in Star Trek. At least not in the broadcast TV series, and not so far in the novelizations. Maybe in some of the extended stuff, but I haven't touched any of that. I don't know if I will. I got other things I want to read first. But anyway, yeah, it just... They would absolutely have it. There's a concept of credits in there, so yeah, it's silly, this idea that they don't. And also, Excelsior was even talked about how it's cost us too much, and repairing the Enterprise would cost too much to be worth it in just the previous book. So I mean, yeah. Anyway, a little bit more here. Is this where it? Okay. There's also just a mention of how it is not enough that they are safe. Jillian explains that orcas have been in captivity for decades, and when they are normally when they're free, they also make noises and such, and it seems like they're communicating, which makes sense. They are predators, so they're probably doing something to just say over here, over here. But that once in captivity, they will start using fewer, having a smaller vocabulary, having less to say. Eventually, they will stop saying anything and stop playing, even then they die. And it's not just for Gracie's benefit that she wants George and Gracie in a better place, but because she said that George this spring didn't sing any songs, so she is worried that he is also losing the will to live, and so freedom is necessary. It's a little odd to press it. From her point of view, it makes perfect sense to press this on Kirk. It aligns with her motivations perfectly. But his response is a little odd. That's like, if that's what they need, I'll make sure of it. It's like, you weren't just going to put them in the ocean? I mean, legitimately, you could just put them in the ocean. Why would you ever try to have them in a tank? It doesn't make sense. No one knows what to do with them. So, it just seems odd that he's not just... Well, yeah, no, this is... He's already explained to her, so he could just say, we would have them in the ocean. Don't worry, they're clean. In it now, no pollution. And, yeah. I do wonder, though, because also the claim that there's no large aquatic mammals anymore. It's like, okay, well, then whatever they were eating is overpopulated. I mean, it's... How is that adapted? Because if anything, it would make more sense that there were some of the larger ones that died out, but others that would still be surviving because I have so much more food. Yeah, it's... Maybe it's just a me thing. That this is part of how my brain works, where it's like, well, when these species are in competition with each other. When you remove one, that means that there's more food for the others that eat that food, so they can advance. And things like that. It's like, I do think that through. And it's just... Maybe Vonda doesn't. I don't know, but it still is one of those. I would have to ask the question of why are the large ones all gone? And if it is just, well, they got so polluted that they couldn't, it's like, okay, pollution would also affect the smaller ones, so why are the large ones gone? And it's like, I need you to give this explanation. Because if it is just, no, specifically they were hunted, whereas the small ones weren't, which also doesn't make much sense. I mean, true, one kill of a whale produces a lot more than one kill of a sea lion. But it's also, a sea lion is going to be much easier to kill. So it's like you'd even just potentially cast nets, pick it up, kill them on board a ship, and then start processing immediately. I mean, it just is one of those things where it's like the claims you're making here in the book, they're convenient for the story, but they're not realistic. And I got the kind of technical mind that is going to be like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. So. But anyway, that's about where the chapter ends. Actually, wait, does it exactly end? Oh, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, with he beams back aboard the ship, and she does hit the brakes and be like, "What was that?" But no one's there. It doesn't trip for her that. At least it doesn't make clear. She sees he's not there, but it doesn't trip for her that. Where did he go? There's no way he could have gone. But a lot of the conversation is gone as expected. We do have in here a little bit of her and Chekhov beaming in, to being onto the Enterprise, which fortunately it seems they're lucky that they are within a secured area, such that guards are only outside patrolling the entrances, so they're probably gonna be okay. There's one dog that goes off, which is a little curious because the way that the guard talks to the dog. He's implying it's a drug dog. And it's like, okay, I can understand those being on military ships. But I would think that if you're specifically going around the reactor area, you're not searching for drugs. You'd have the guard there to find people. So I would think you'd have a dog trained for something else. Or is it just that they do train drug dogs for also takedowns and such, and for searching out people and taking them down? It's like, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it is. You do have dogs specialized like that. That like a cadaver dog is different from a drug dog. And even then, there might be one for marijuana, one for cocaine, one for heroin. I'm saying you don't cross them a lot. So it's, yeah, that does confuse me a little bit. But unfortunately, yeah, no, I can totally believe having a drug dog on a military ship. Drugs are everywhere. But the guard is even like, you know what? Look, even if there is some dope in the reactor area, you know what? I'm kind of tempted to just leave it there. The dude's nose would be glowing. And it's like, that's not really appropriate. Also, not really how it works, but anyway. Yeah. So, in the next chapter, I assume, well, we're gonna have some stuff with Kirk. You know, that's also true. Would it? I'll explain that in a moment. But yeah, we'll have some stuff with Kirk. It looked like we start up with him. But I assume that the majority of it is going to be on the Enterprise. That whole stuff, and maybe Jillian finds that the whales have been taken, so comes to the park and then is beamed up so they can go, and Kirk, McCoy, and her can go and rescue her and Chekhov. Oh wait, no. I don't know. I'm not sure where the chapter will end, but certainly some of that will be in there. But what occurred to me is Kirk says, Jillian tells him they are tagged, but it's like, I'm not giving you the frequencies. In theory, they could just scan for frequencies around the Cetacean Institute, and specifically around the tank. Because you'd think that they'd already be tagged. They would have been tagged when they were brought in. So, you might be able to find that already. I mean, that at least is a small enough detail where I can understand it being you're not supposed to think about that. Just keep reading. Or it could be that no, they will be tagged en route to Alaska. So that could be it. One thing though that did also occur to me, and this is again, I know I'm being technical on this. They should be adjusting the temperature of the water for the whales, and potentially even the salinity. I believe Alaska's salinity is going to be different from the equators. Well, from not the equators, but where they are in San Francisco. That, to suddenly put them in water, there's a significantly different temperature and also the different salinity, possibly. That actually could cause the animals to go into shock. I'm pretty sure that is the case. Like, it's like how with even goldfish and such, which are much smaller animal, so possibly smaller tolerances, but it still is. If you drop them into just a new tank or something, that they can actually go into shock and it'll kill them. You need to make sure that they acclimate slowly to it, and it's like I would assume that whales are the same. Yes, they do exist in both extremes, but they do move through it, so they are adapting through the movement. Whereas, hey, it would be kind of like jet lag, because they've just been flown such great distance without the normal changes there, the normal adaptations that they can't go through. Yeah, it messes with them. So that as I said, though, me being very, very technical unnecessarily. It's also one of those things, it doesn't need to be mentioned in the book. Like, if I were writing it, it might be yes, they would be doing that. I don't need to write that in the book. It's just if anybody asked, yes, that's in my notes, but I write it in the book. So, yeah. Enough of my blathering. See you next time for Chapter 10, which, quick reminder, 10, 11, 12, 13, epilogue. Why did I do that? But yeah, 5 left. So, see you then.